Okay, welcome to Task 6, Part 2. Your journey so far. And yes, it's a long journey through this task, I know, but you're going to do an awful lot of learning through it. So your journey so far was to take the raw data that you gathered in your test trial, the trial for version 1. Take that data and write it out on a piece of paper or in your math book. And then on your own, go and identify any outliers, cross them out, explain why you thought they were outliers. Then you were asked to calculate the mean, the median, the mode, the range with full working. Then you were asked to calculate the kinetic energy using this formula, which is a new way of you guys really getting into math, and this is where math and science really start to combine, learning how to use algebraic formulas. And then you had to go and screenshot your work and stick it here. If you have not done all of those things, then you need to stop now and go back and complete that task first. If you have got there and you understand how you got through all of this, then listen on and enjoy the show. Because I'm about to show you how you could have done it a whole lot quicker. Yes, there is an easier way, but you don't understand it's easier until you've taken the long road first. So here's how ICT, i.e. spreadsheets in this case, makes our job a whole lot easier. So on to task 2. So part 2 here, we're going to take that same data and we're going to put it into a spreadsheet. So before you go any further, I'm going to get you to go to Google Classroom. And here's Google Classroom. I want you to click on the Classwork tab. And at the very top, not under any particular subject yet, is your STEM portfolio. And when you click on it and open it up, there's a link to a spreadsheet here. When you click on that, it will ask you to copy it. And take a copy, okay? It will look like this. Now, I've sort of set this out so that you can just get straight into the calculating. The very first thing you need to do once you're here is, first of all, I'd like you to add your name at the top there, so if need be, I know whose is whose. Then I'd like you to type in all of your data, the same data that you had on your piece of paper from part 1. All of those raw results, including the mass of the marble in kilograms, and your hand-done calculations. Put them in there for me. I'm going to add mine now. So there's mine, straight from a piece of paper. All of these are just numbers typed in. Notice how I've used no units. That's incredibly important in Excel because as soon as you use any sort of letters in that cell, it thinks it is a piece of text, not a number. So I'll show you here. If I go into here and say, okay, my mode of my speed is 3 meters per second, as soon as I do that, it will actually see it as text and it won't be able to do any calculations with it. So do not use any units or letters in your cells if you want it to be able to see them as numbers. Now before I go any further, remember the very first thing you have to do is remove your outliers. You need to get rid of any of the bad data. And if you can't find any really bad data, the option is to top and tail it. Get rid of the biggest and the smallest. However, you don't just delete them. We never delete data in science, ever. Okay, we just don't want to use it in the calculations. So remember how I said before that if you put any sort of text in the cell, it then sees it as text instead of number? Well, that's what we do to get rid of our outliers. So my first outlier is definitely that 5.5. I'm going to double click in that cell and I'm going to turn it into text just by adding either an X or little speech marks. It doesn't really matter. Once you put any piece of text in there, it will not recognize it as a number. Okay? Let's have a look here. That was a big number, so what other number would I take away? I've got 3s, 2s, 1, 4, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2. I'd say I would remove that 4. If I take him away, then it will definitely improve my data. Okay? So now that I've taken those guys away, that's all you have to do. We're going to go on and calculate the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. Now, how do you do that? If you have a look at your instructions, I've given you some help here. I've added in here the little words that we use in formulas in spreadsheets to get it to calculate what we want. We actually don't have to tell it how to do it. We just have to tell it what formula to use. So spreadsheets know mean as average. So you have to type that word in to get it to find the mean of something. Median is called median. Mode is called mode. Range, well, it doesn't know how to do. You have to select for it the biggest minus the smallest value. And kinetic energy is a little bit more detailed, so I want you to actually watch the video for those steps. So let's go back to our spreadsheet and do those calculations. Okay, over to mean. Remember how I said it's the word average. To get a spreadsheet to calculate anything, you have to tell it to equal. So we press equal, and it goes, okay, what do you want me to calculate? And I type average, A-V-E. Oh, all of a sudden, all these words pop up, and it's going, oh, guess what? I've got all of these formulas you could use. And it's saying you could do average div, average on its own, average div A, average if. Don't get confused. Just stick to the word you need. Average. Remember, this spreadsheet has programmed into it literally thousands of formulas. You just have to use the ones that are at your level. So I'm going to click average, and then it's going to go, okay, average of what? And you have to tell it. Now there's two ways to do this. You could go the long way and type in all the numbers like this, 3, 3.1, If you do that, it's going to take you ages. And really, how much different than a calculator is that? Don't go there. Go the easy path. This is where spreadsheets come into their strengths. Just select all of the data you need to use in that average calculation and go enter. And it's done. Okay? Same for median. I go equals and start typing my word. Now it only has one word that starts with MED, median. Select it. And again, it's not that bright. You have to go and tell it which cells to use again. So go over here, select them all, enter. Done. How easy is that? No more typing into a calculator. Spreadsheets are far, far easier. Mode is just as simple. Equals mode. Now here, there's mod and mode. Don't use mod. You don't want that one. Select mode. Don't always assume it's going to be the top result. And again, tell it what to use. All of that data. Enter. Now notice how it's come up with an NA. That's because spreadsheets are not as smart as we are. When you guys were looking at modes, you were thinking, okay, well, they're all different numbers, but how many are 3s? How many are 2s? How many are 4s? And you could use that sort of logic to figure out the mode. Spreadsheets simply look at the numbers on their own. As far as it's concerned, every single one of those is different, therefore there is no mode. Just leave it like that. Range. You always find that by finding the difference between the biggest and the smallest. So let's find it. Equals, where's my biggest? Go and click on the biggest one, 3.9. Then go minus, then find the smallest one, that one. Go equals. Done. Not so hard, is it? Spreadsheets are really quick to go through things that usually take us a long time by hand and with a calculator. Okay? Last but not least, kinetic energy. I'm going to scroll over a bit here. Kinetic energy. I've given you the equation here again to remember. It's simply half of whatever my mass is times my velocity squared. We just have to tell it what's the mass and what's the velocity. Okay? So I'm going to show you how to type this in, because it's the squared bit that gets people confused. When you're on any sort of computer at all, to tell the computer that that number, that 2, is squared, not times by 2, you have to use a specific little symbol to tell it to push that number up. And I always think of it as the caret. It's that little carety or triangle symbol that's on top of the 6. That's what we're going to be using here. So watch how I type it in. I'm going to go all the way up here to the top here so you can see me typing it in, because it'll be easier. So I'm going to go equals. I'm going to put in half, which is 0.5. And then I'm going to say times. In spreadsheets or in computers, times is Shift-8, the little asterisk. Now I'm going to tell it my mass. Don't type in the mass, the actual amount. Tell it the cell. There's my mass. Click on it. So it realizes that whatever's in that cell is your mass. Then I'm going to tell it to times again. And I'm going to tell it what my velocity is squared. Now for your calculations, you can choose which one of these velocities you would like to use, which one you think is more appropriate. With me, I'm going to go with the mean. So I'm going to click my mean. And I'm going to say whatever this number is, whatever that number is, I want you to square it. And this is how I tell it that. So whatever is in R3, I want you to square it. You go Shift 6 and you have that little caret there that says that the number's going to go up, and click 2, and now it's going to square whatever value is in R3. It's going to times it by itself. Click enter. That's kinetic energy. Okay? Have another look at how I typed it. That's how you type your kinetic energy equation. Half times my mass cell times my velocity cell or my speed cell squared. That's it. Okay? It's pretty simple once you get going. Now I'm going to show you a few other little tricks just before we finish. First of all, I'm going to prove to you that this did ignore those numbers when I put the X in there. Look what happens to my calculations if I take the X out. See how they all change? That's because up until now, it was ignoring those 5.5 trial there. So I'm going to put it back in. And it goes back. So that's how easy it is to get it to ignore outliers. The last thing I'm going to show you is what the true strength of a spreadsheet is. Remember how we typed in all of these formulas? Do you want to have to do them for the next lot of trials that you do? Because you're going to be doing them by hand on a piece of paper as well. Instead of just doing them all over again, you can actually get it to do this. And this will also be in the next video, but watch. You click on all those formulas that you don't want to retype again. Remember how I told you to tell it what cells to use in that row each time? There's a reason for that. Because if I go over here to that little thing there, that little square, and it turns into that cross, if I click and drag down, I'm going to get this happening. Right now it looks like gobbledygook because it's going, can't do anything, can't do anything. That's because it's copied those formulas down, but instead of looking in this row, it's now looking for data in this row. When you add that data in, it will automatically start trying to calculate the average, the median, the mode. So you don't have to type the formulas in again. It's already done for you. That is the pure power of a spreadsheet. Not only does it reduce your calculations the first time, but every time after that as well. Okay, this is a long video. You're most probably going to have to go back over it a couple of times, but learning how to use a spreadsheet and how it can actually save you time is invaluable for anyone in the workforce these days. I've used it in every job I've had, and I haven't always been a teacher. So make sure that you really start to learn or try to learn how to use it, because in future it will save you a lot of time. Okay? Good luck, give it a go, and seek your teacher's help if you need any further assistance.